We can't become like the person that we could be or ought to be without some self-discipline. Like, it's kind of like, take for example, someone who has natural, like, athletic ability. That doesn't mean anything unless they exercise some self-discipline and, instill some habits into their life, cut out some rubbish from their life, and limit themselves. Because if they don't do that, they'll never fulfill their potential. And I think it's the same across life. Like, every person has huge potential. They have natural gifts, natural capabilities, but those things mean nothing unless people self-discipline themselves, and say, I'm going to say no to a whole bunch of stuff so that I can say yes to this better thing, which is me being, smart, wise, strong, athletic, fit, healthy, successful, whatever, and so I think we don't fulfill our potential without self-discipline.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dreamscheme Journey podcast with Stephen, David and myself, Jonny. It's great to be back for another episode, and we're going to be talking about self-discipline this month. But just before that, maybe you're asking yourself, why do we do this? What is the podcast all about? We've had a number of podcasts now and it's been great, but we are all about, we're youth workers working with young people in local areas of Belfast and just beyond. And we just love sharing some of the news and issues that young people are facing. We find it interesting. We're talking about it as a staff team anyway, so we just thought we'd bring it a wee bit of life, and we do a wee bit of research into these topics and issues as well. Sometimes a lot of research is to do with a lot of writing, and we don't have time to do a lot of writing.
We're more talkers here.
We're more talkers. So we like to bring our research to life in an already saturated podcast area, we know, but we're really thankful for you guys who do listen and maybe share it to other people who would be interested in it. You can catch us on YouTube, which is all the video recordings be going on there, or audibly on Spotify. So you can also catch us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for any thoughts, comments, or ideas or questions. You can always catch us there. So thank you very much. So today we're talking about self-discipline. We're going to come to that in a wee while. As always, we have our important questions, and what this section is all about for our listeners is, if you didn't know by now, we do important questions at the start of the podcast. Us as youth workers working with young people, or if you're teachers or social workers or just parents or whatever, you will always get asked a million questions by young people, and sometimes those questions can be like, especially in our line of work, can be like, that's quite difficult, interesting, and you have to try to think on the spot. So we like to do that here. We ask difficult questions, get us two people to think on the spot and answer them. So David has difficult questions today for us. What are those questions?
I do. So one of them is one that's been doing the rounds on the socials quite a lot recently. It's something I've seen on TikTok, like every video I scroll past. Something that everyone's arguing about. It's taken the world by storm. And no, it's not Chris Rock and Will Smith. It is, are there more doors or are there more wheels in the world?
Wheels or wheels?
Wheels. I'm trying to figure out where I'm from. Wheels.
So my instinct is doors.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's the obvious one, like
any reason?
Well, there's the front doors that we all know of, and there's car doors. But then there's also I just think there's
this podcast is turning into a farce now. Because everyone has a front door, so there must be doors.
Yeah,
and everyone has a car with 5 doors.
There's doors. There's boot doors. There's the front part door of the car. Advent calendars have doors. Cupboard doors.
How many doors in that?
There's the doors and this is where I think I've won the argument. The doors of opportunity, Jonny.
Oh goodness.
Okay. Well, I am obviously going to have the conflicting view, as Stephen and I always know. Personalities always different. I'm going to go for wheels. I've had this conversation recently with a couple of friends, and a healthy debate. Actually, it was healthy. I'm going to go for wheels though, because I think wheels are an absolute thing. Even doors will have wheels of some sort in them usually. Not always, but sliding doors would have stuff. But you think about all the modes of transport have wheels. You think about even like maybe not digital watches, but analog watches will have wheels in them, like cog wheels, like clocks, things like that. There, everything will have a wheel of some sort
wheels, to be fair.
in them. There's a lot of wheels in the world. If you think about it logically, there's always a wheel of opportunity.
Just anything of opportunity.
A wheel of choices.
There's windows of opportunity as well.
There's always a wheel. Like if
No, there's one windows or something else. Windows are blades of grass.
So, but there, so there we go. I'm going to say wheels. David, are you going to weigh in and give us the deciding factor, I guess?
Yeah, I was thinking like car shops, like, you know, fixing shops and stuff. They've got like loads of tires.
Wheels line.
For the listeners, that
Wheels
would be
on wheels.
called a mechanic's
That's
workshop.
the one. That's the one. I'm not a car person. What can I say? Yeah, so I think I would have to go with wheels. I don't know. Deep down, Stephen knows he's wrong with doors.
Of course, he knows he's wrong. Like, there's definitely more.
We're gonna get there.
So we have decided officially on this argument and debate that's been going worldwide on Twitter that the Dreamscheme podcast are in favour of wheels.
Wheels.
And that's been decided, so we can move on from this pointless argument in general.
Okay, so the next question that I've got is one that I want you guys to sort of think a bit outside the box with. I don't want your generic answers, Johnny. You give them all the time. That's awful. You don't.
It's just straight slander there, Johnny.
And it's, what is beauty?
So it's a question to mull over.
Yeah, Mullen, Stephen.
I see what you
Question
did there,
to
David.
Mullen over.
I see what you did.
So Stephen, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I
Go
think.
on, here comes the intellectual.
Yeah.
Go on.
I look. There's like I often think about there's three words that are like at the very center of like what life should be about, which is like goodness, truth, and beauty. And beauty is one of them. I think there are things to just keep your mind thinking about, and you shouldn't go too far wrong. But beauty's everywhere, and beauty is something that I think is like it's like it's kind of so self-evident. It's really hard to describe actually, but you know, it's something that I think it makes us feel something when we see it, or when we experience it. It's something that makes, I guess it makes us happy, makes us feel all's well in the world. I guess I was thinking, there's a Twitter profile I was looking at recently, which is I think it's quite funny, but it's called Architects Against Humanity, and basically it just shows pictures of like all these horrendous looking buildings made by these like PhD style modern architects, and it's just brutal, and it's like then contrast it with all these absolutely beautiful villages and like houses built by peasants in like middle of Europe from like 500 years ago. And I think the point is beauty, you know it when you see it, and it's timeless and it's always beautiful. And I think in our modern world we can like get rid of it and forget about it in the name of like being cool or innovative or like kind of practical or whatever. But I think when we lose beauty, you lose a massive part of what life's about.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that beauty is whatever is pleasing to the self. It's very subjective to whatever you think is beautiful, but I think it is something that is a true reflection of your inner self and what you portray on the outside world.
It's very philosophical, Johnny.
You think that I'm just a joker?
Johnny,
No?
I think Johnny has a big career in writing definitions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good.
The Johnny Luke
Dictionary.
Dictionary coming soon, coming 2023.
Thank you, David. Good questions.
Good
Well, the first
questions.
question was an absolute
Belter,
It's
as we say here in Belfast.
it's so divisive.
The second question, though, is a question.
It is
worth asking.
also a deep belter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it was really interesting. Thanks, David, for collating those questions for us today. And we're going to move on to our topic of conversation around self-discipline. Very interesting conversation. This week, it was interesting that David and Stephen met without me, which was great.
Great meeting.
I wasn't invited to the meeting, but I still made it on the show. It's okay. But you guys decided that we're going to do a challenge this week, and the challenge was for us to give up something for the week. You know, we usually met on like Monday, and we had to give up something the whole week until we record this, which is now Friday. And interesting. I thought the last podcast, last episode, I miserably failed at challenges. I forgot really to do it and bring it in. The origami challenge, if you remember, and David won that. It was beautiful. Yep. So I thought this week I am going to nail this. I'm going to do it, and I decided that I was going to try and show you two up. So thanks for meeting without me. Here are the videos that we discussed that we're going to do.
I am going to be set myself a challenge of reducing the amount of social media I am consuming, and the particular challenge I'm going to give myself is that I am not going to access any social media until lunchtime. So for me, it's about blocking out that morning every day, just to get on with my day, to fill it with good things, and not to get sucked into just the news feed. Information overload, all the stuff that just brings on anxiety, stops me being productive, gets me distracted, and so my aim is that at the end of this week I'm going to be feeling clearer in my head, fresher, less anxious, less overwhelmed by the news and information. And I hope that's going to make me feel like I'm in a better place to do work, and to be a better place for my relationships, have better energy. So here goes.
Okay, so for my challenge of discipline this week, I'm going to try, well, it's kind of cheating because I've been doing it for a while now, but intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for about a month at the moment, but I'll explain what it is. So intermittent fasting is basically you give yourself a window during the day where you're allowed to eat, and then the other so many hours you're not. I can drink black coffee and water, but I'm not allowed to eat. But basically what this does is it allows your body to kind of get energy from elsewhere other than your food. So it kind of eats away at your fat. It's kind of like a detox type thing as well. But what I'm going to do this week is try and shorten my window down from 8 hours to 6. So I'm only allowed to eat from 12 until 6 every day, and then from 6 until 12 the next day, then I'm not allowed to eat. So I'm looking forward to seeing sort of how much tougher it is than the 8-hour one. One thing I'm also going to do is try and go to the gym every day as well, and sort of see how that goes, and see if my body starts to get tired, or just sort of see if there's a positive effect mentally as well. But yeah, that's what I'm going to try and do for my discipline challenge this week.
So I'm just about to go record the Dreamscheme podcast with Stephen and David. This whole week's been about self-discipline and how it's been, and my challenge this week was to give up something, and I've given up Netflix and like Amazon Prime over the last number of days, and it has been okay. It's been hard at times, but it's been okay. I can't say that I'm glad that it's over, but yeah, but I did it. Hope the other guys did the same.
Netflix.
Right, so there's a couple of things I'm going to take from those videos right now and just point it out, right? So, viewers again, David and Stephen met without me.
I didn't know.
And gave me this challenge and just wrote it into our group chat. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good, I'm going to try this challenge. So I gave up two pretty big things. I gave up Netflix and streaming services and not watching like Amazon Prime and Disney and all those things that we have.
I'm so sorry.
And that was a hard week for me. And now I've just found out that David was doing intermittent fasting. That's hard. I'm doing that as well at the moment. But he's already been doing it, so it wasn't anything new.
I did.
Hang on, no, you get a chance to do it.
Okay.
And then he had a second one, not just one but two, so he's trying to outdo us, Stephen.
100%. I'm trying to show how much more self-disciplined I am than you guys.
Okay. And then we'll come to Stephen's farce. Absolute farce. He's given up some self-discipline until 12, till lunch. We will get into that, I guess. That's something we'll get into. Listen, how did it go?
Yeah, so I started out doing the 8. Let me get my miles right here. What is it?
13-hour day.
16-8, isn't it? Yeah.
16,
So
8, yeah.
you do the 8 hours of eating during the day, and then it's a 16-hour fast till the next day. Which at the very start of it, I found it tough, but as you sort of get into the cycle of it and your body gets used to it, it becomes easy. So for this week, I thought, why not try and move it down to where I only have a 6-hour window where I can eat, from 12 to 6. And honestly, that little step up was a lot more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. The toughest times for me during the fasting is night times, because like I'm very much a nighttime person. Like I find that's when I'm probably at my most like stimulated in terms of mind. I can, I'm a night person. I'll stay up late and kind of will be able to function. But like when you get to 10 p.m, your just stomach's rumbling. You're like, oh my goodness, I just wanted to go downstairs and make a sandwich or something, but you just can't. It's like trying to stay in that frame of mind where it's like, this is gonna benefit me ultimately, and like you sort of do realize that the hunger does kind of pass. It's just like those kind of phases, and then, but I'm allowed to drink black coffee and water and stuff during the fasting periods, which will sort of help with the feelings of hunger and stuff as well. But yeah, I found it's been very, very beneficial. I think even mentally, it's very good for you. I find that when I wake up in the morning, I'm very refreshed. I'm very sort of more energetic.
And if you just joined us, as the podcast on intermittent fasting and the health benefits.
Let's do it.
So obviously there's benefits of what you were trying to do as well, and both of you were trying to do, but did it help?
Like I definitely felt I had to consciously say no to myself, and but I think by having a set a challenge at the start of the week to say like there's a reason behind this. Like I'm trying to, beyond the no is a yes to something better. Like I want to be fresher and I want to have the time to myself again. So I think that helped. It wasn't just I'm going to be hard on myself because this is bad. I think you need to have something positive beyond the thing you're going to limit or cut out. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm limiting this or I'm disciplining myself because by doing that I get something better. I get to be, I get to have better days. I get to become a better person or whatever. So I think that emotionally helps. It's not just all about like willpower and grit. It's like, this is serving the kind of person I want to be, and that's the kind of way I think I was thinking through it, and that seemed to help me as I cut out social media over the week.
So it was an interesting challenge for us guys. David obviously won last month with his challenge. I thought his organ was great. This month I've hands down won, just because by default, thought you guys just...
There's nothing even on Netflix at the moment. You're not missing out.
Anyway, we talked about the challenging of our side. I guess just moving on and kind of the topic of, why is self-discipline good? Why is it good for us? Mm-hmm. So, David, I know you've done a wee bit of research, a wee bit of reading this week, and Stephen, you've probably done the same.
Not as much as David.
Not as much as David.
David's brought a book and everything.
He's a learned man. He brought a book.
He's got a section. He's got a section in his personal library called self-discipline.
He does, and I can see he's got things marked out on his book. So let's go to David first. Why is self-discipline good? We're talking about it today because obviously we believe it's a good thing. It's something that young people should be doing, and we'll come to that as well. But firstly, why is it good?
Yeah, so this wee book that I brought, it's one called Eat That Frog. It's a really weird name, but it's supposedly relevant.
As you do.
Is it new? No.
What's the subtitle, David?
As you do.
Oh, as you do. The subtitle is Get More of the Important Things Done Today. So I got this book because I felt like I needed a bit of an increase in my productivity, and sort of when I started to get to the point where I was like, I really do need to plan my days out a bit better and have a bit of structure to my days, being self-disciplined that way, because I just felt like I didn't really have any sort of set routine in place. But I feel like this book has actually been very, very helpful. It kind of, it's very goals orientated and self-disciplined, not really the likes of, giving something up. It's more like productivity and being productive, and self-discipline leading to productivity and getting more done and making the most of your week. But I sort of came up with sort of 3 things that I feel are the best outcomes for me in terms of self-discipline, and as a result of kind of implementing the set routine into my day. First one was like forming good habits and like phasing out your bad habits. I think if you're aware of your bad habits, that's the first, it's half the battle. I think you just need to be very honest with yourself, and you need to acknowledge what sort of how you might be in a rut. And once you identify that, you're then able to do your research and sort of think, how can I then phase those out? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. You're not just going to suddenly not have your bad habits. You just sort of have to work on them and chip away at them. And I found that by implementing what this book said, I was able to kind of start forming good habits and then implement them daily, to the point where, on a Monday morning when I come in, Jonny does the priorities with us every week, but I'm able to sort of fit them in through my week. I feel like it's very, very beneficial to have a bit of a checklist, and that's a good habit for me, because then I'm able to take those priorities, and like Stephen told me about this, the app Notion. I've now started using that, which is great. But I've got a weekly agenda in that, and I can fit things in. So I find that's a good habit that's come from it. Second one's just increased productivity. I just feel like I've actually, I enjoy being productive, and I enjoy the moments where I'm actually sitting working. It can be in a coffee shop somewhere, or it can be, up in the office or whatever. But it's actually like enjoying being productive and enjoying getting things done. I think this book talks about, the sort of chemical that's released into your brain when you get something done and you like achieve something. And it's almost like addictive. It's like, so when you get that sort of when you get that that feeling, or that sort of sense of achievement when you get stuff done, or if you're ticking things off a checklist, it will become like really stimulating and enjoying.
It's really interesting.
So that's one thing I find from as well. And then the last one was something good comes from self-discipline. Is actually like having things in moderation, and having things, I was actually chatting about this in mentoring recently in schools, but I think as a society nowadays, we just love to have things instantly, and love to have things right here and now, and there's like no patience whatsoever.
That was lovely, very well read, this episode, in terms of your book and knowledge. Stephen, why is it good to be self-disciplined?
Yeah, so I think basically we can't become like the person that we could be or ought to be without some self-discipline. Like, it's kind of like, take for example someone who has natural like athletic ability. That doesn't mean anything unless they exercise some self-discipline and instill some habits into their life, cut out some rubbish from their life, and limit themselves, because if they don't do that, they'll never fulfill their potential. And I think it's the same across life. Like, every person has huge potential. They have natural gifts, natural capabilities, but those things mean nothing unless people self-discipline themselves, and say, I'm going to say no to a whole bunch of stuff so that I can say yes to this better thing, which is me being, smart, wise, strong, athletic, fit, healthy, successful, whatever, and so I think we don't fulfill our potential without self-discipline.
Interesting, because self-discipline for me would be is good. It's kind of like, I come from a sports sort of background, and it's like a muscle memory. It is like a muscle. Training self-discipline is like something you have to continue to work at. If we're going down that line of like sports and training for something every day, like, you just don't become self-disciplined overnight. It is something that you have to work at. And why is it good for you? Is because then it will help you have more self-control and help you to be more productive in your day-to-day, which you guys have kind of already said. And I just think that's really helpful in terms of like not wasting the opportunities that life throws your way, because a lot of self-disciplined people, I don't know what's the word, but a lot of non-disciplined people would then just waste their time and waste their opportunity and things. And I think about young people who aren't disciplined in their lives, and I'm not talking about behavior and like attitude and things like that. I'm talking about just what we're talking about when we mean by self-discipline, I guess, is actually being in control and working kind of hard, I guess, for things that you want. It's not about school. It's about like just things in general in your life.
Yeah, like what? It's kind of hard to think what how do you define it? Like, there's in a sense of like it's bringing order to your life, or it's taking responsibility to like shape your day or your life in such a way that you can achieve the things you want to achieve. So like, it's basically getting in the driving seat and going, I'm not going to get there without me making changes to my life and me effectively,
And it's like taking that sports analogy again. If you are training for a fight, a match, or whatever it is, you need to have discipline to go to the gym 6 days a week like you did. You need to eat the right foods to be disciplined there, not eating the wrong foods. You have to be disciplined and going to sleep, getting that all. There's a lot of discipline. I think top athletes do it really well. I think most top athletes is massive self-discipline.
That's what they're known for. That's why they've reached where they've reached. And it's across the board. Like, anyone that's achieved anything, they'll not have got there by sitting on their.
And I think that's what it comes down to is like
actually
achieving.
Yeah,
you want to achieve something in your life. You want to work for something in your life. You want to make use of the opportunities. So self-discipline will help you to do that better, or else to do it in general. So I think that's why self-discipline is good to have. Yeah. I'm going to move on from that. We were all in agreement that self-discipline is good.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing, right? So this podcast obviously is for not for young people, but for about working with young people. And so why is it good for us to teach young people to have self-discipline? Why is it good for young people to have self-discipline and to learn that, especially at an earlier age in their life?
I'm trying to think back even to myself. I always felt like I was very impatient. Growing up as a teenager in school and stuff, I always couldn't wait to finish school. I was always so excited to get out of it and kind of, move into the other things. I just felt that maybe it entirely wasn't for me. But, one of the things that I always think is that you can teach yourself to be self-disciplined. I think, a lot of the times we would have young people just go, oh, I just can't do something, or just, I just can't do it. But I would kind of try and encourage them to flip that and say, you could do it. You just need to work at it, and you just need to persevere with it. And I think as a young person, if something goes wrong, it can be so easy to kind of just think, oh, that's not for me. That's completely out of the question. And self-discipline is one of those things. If you so many times in the past, I just, if I did want to go to the gym as a young person, I would go and then sort of give up on it after 3 weeks when I'm not seeing any sort of results. But I think as I've got older, I sort of realised that you just have to keep chipping away at it and keep going. And I think trying to be disciplined in terms of your perseverance and disciplined in terms of like endurance is a big thing. I just think the biggest thing I would encourage young people to be is patient. I would say like just enjoy your time as a young person, enjoy your time in school. What that looks like, no matter what, you do what you enjoy in school, and be patient. Things will come, and you can teach yourself to be self-disciplined.
So one of the things there you were saying, like that idea of patience is great, and just the don't expect everything to happen all at once or whatever. But I think that's the kind of thing I would like to maybe say is that when you're young, self-discipline matters because it's who you're becoming by like installing a certain kind of lifestyle, making certain choices, building certain habits over not just a course of a few weeks, but over like lots of years. That's what shapes us as people. So like, for example, you might be 15 now, and you might be, when you're like 20, you want to get a job, or you want to, go and chase whatever dream you have or whatever. At that point, if you haven't been doing the work of like building up skills or building up experience or like becoming, the person ready for that opportunity. You can't suddenly switch the flick overnight. So whenever I was 15, I tried to learn the guitar, but like I gave up after like a month and a half. And it's kind of, David, you were maybe saying as well, you know. And I think the message to young people is, don't give up after a month and a half. Embrace this journey or this length of self-discipline, knowing that you'll thank yourself in like 3 or 4 years' time, and like you really will thank yourself for the stuff that you build into your life. So like there's things I wish I had built habits as a 15-year-old, and I'm also really thankful for some habits that I did build into my life as a 15-year-old. Because when I was like 20, I was like, oh, that actually really paid off, and I'm so glad I did. So that's kind of the main thing I would say.
So self-discipline for young people, I guess, for me, is that it will, there's all the stuff you're talking about. It will help them drive and reach their ambitions and things. But what I think it also does, it helps, which is another issue with young people that I think, particularly in today's society, is resilience. I think self-discipline helps you learn resilience and builds resilience within you, and for when those tough times comes out of the blue, or tough times may come, or when the hard gets going, the going gets tough. I think the resilience, the self-discipline you've done helps young person have resilience against those times. Like, oh, it's okay, this has happened. I know what I need to do to kind of they work myself through that. And I think for me, that's something I was thinking about this week. That is the massive issue in young people's lives. So I think self-discipline comes back down to learning how to cope with situations and learning how to deal with it. And I think if you have self-discipline, you're learning how to train yourself and your mind to deal with harder situations. You're talking about young people going into jobs or going in the workplace. One thing I think that this is a generic thing is that there's a lack of ambition sometimes with young people, and I think there's a lack of like, oh, I can't do this, or you said that I can't do that, or blah blah blah. But I think like if you learn to have self-discipline and be ambitious, you can actually achieve so much more than what you think. So self-discipline is good. Ambition's good too. Really interesting for young people. Is there healthy tips in how they build self-discipline? I know we're going to go into the top 5 tips of something else in a minute, but is there kind of like a wee tip that you'd leave of kind of building self-discipline into your life, and what does that look like, especially from either as a teenager or either as someone who is working with a young person right now? What advice can they give them?
I would say don't focus on results, and instead shift your focus to passion and enjoyment. Okay. I said earlier that I think we want everything instantly, and it's the same with self-discipline. We want results instantly, and we want to see improvements instantly. And when we don't see that, you lose motivation, and you it's so easy just to quit. But I think if we do things out of passion and enjoyment rather than expecting instant results, it's a much better way to go about it.
Okay.
Mine's very similar to that, which is think about the kind of person you want to be, not about certain things you want to achieve necessarily. So like the problem with goals is that you're like, okay, I want to I want to pass my exams, so I'm going to revise so hard, or I'm going to learn for like so many months. But the problem is you get your goal and then you're over the finish line, and the problem is that the habits just fall apart and you'll be back to where you began. Whereas you're like, I want to be somebody who never quits. I want to be somebody that doesn't miss my exercise. I want to be someone that is always learning. I want to be someone who actually takes time for my real friendships. Those things you're saying, that's my identity, that's who I am, and so you're that's like a forever habit. That's just something that you be part of your whole life, and that's easier to maintain than there's this big goal that I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I guess going off what you guys said, I would agree, and of course, and I would echo that. But what I would advise was self-discipline takes time. To be patient, as David said, but you will take steps back. This is not something that it's like, again, it's like training. You will have your hiccups when you're training. You will get injured, whatever. You'll have your hiccups. But I think the big thing about self-discipline is when you mess up, or when you have that hiccup of like, I've totally failed in that or totally this. That's doesn't mean that you don't have self-discipline. That's part of the learning curve of, okay, how can I do that better? Let's, get back in that. So we're using that training analogy again. You have a couple of good matches, then you have those couple of hiccups or fire, and you just need to, that's not because that your training's been poor. Maybe it is, but it's maybe because maybe you have to look at why it's been poor, and always look at the why and kind of like, okay, let's go back and just.
Yeah.
So my main point there, sorry to digress, is that self-discipline takes time, and it's not just something that's overnight.
Give yourself a break.
There's like a diagram that I like to use. It's like it's about growth zones. So it's like 3 different circles. The first circle is your growth zone, the first circle is your comfort zone. The next circle is the learning zone, and then the outside circle is your growth zone. And so if we take time to leave the comfort zone, maybe that's trying something new or something we've never done before, and we sort of pretend you're the line going through, and then you end up at the growth zone. Then your comfort zone expands through the learning zone, and you're left with a new diagram. Do you know what I mean? So your comfort zone has then expanded into your learning zone, and then your growth zone. So you're just completely growing. It's a good sort of visual, of it growing. But it's important to remember that the line isn't always straight. You can go into your learning zone and come back in, go back out. It's never a straight line, and it's important to remember that as well. Like, you're not going to get instant results all the time. You just gotta persevere through it and just be disciplined that way as well.
Brilliant.
So again, like self-discipline, just to echo that, isn't about it is about a behavioral thing, but it's not about your behavior. It's not about me being a really, really good person. Like, people think as discipline is like you being, really good. It's about it's about a method of learning to cope and learning to be patient and learning to have the drive, I guess, to
let go of the pressure of perfect.
Let go of and I guess what I would also just kind of closing up is kind of like those with more self-discipline, I would always say, would have a better self-esteem of themselves. And I know there's a wee bit of research about that. I was kind of looking a wee bit into that this week, and that there's been a bit of a study. I can't remember the statistics, but statistics, hey, who cares about statistics? But there was a wee bit of study in that. The people with more self-discipline have a higher self-esteem, a higher confidence in themselves. They believe in themselves more, while those who didn't practice self-discipline would have lower confidence and lower self-esteem, and would be less willing to try new things or things like that. So I think that was interesting.
Just like try something, pick something that you want to build into your life.
Get out of your comfort zone
and be patient with it, and like give yourself a year, and you'll look back and go, I did that. Yeah, I did that myself, and I feel good. I feel like I can do something else now. And it builds and builds. So
absolutely. Well, listen, it's been interesting talking about self-discipline today. I don't know if that was helpful for the listeners, not as always, but it's always interesting for us. I think we have a wee bit of research and a wee bit of thoughts behind the thing, and it's a very wide and hard topic to understand and grasp at times. Self-discipline, but I think we've done okay. I think we got some good points in there.
And working with young people, it's once it's pushing them, you can do this and you can achieve this, but it's going to take time.
So David, plug your book. What's your book again? Eat the Frog.
Eat That Frog by
Eat That Frog.
Brian Tracy.
By Brian Tracy. Go pick up that book, Brian Tracy.
Highly recommend.
We're not getting funded at any right reason.
Hello, Brian,
Tracy.
if you do want.
Although Brian, if you want to send, that'd be great. But yes, so moving on, the last section of the podcast this week is we always love to end the podcast on the top fives. So this week we David and Stephen, as you may have heard throughout the podcast, have already had a meeting without me this week. So they have decided the topic this week would be on top 5 productivity tips. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it over to you guys, and you tell me, and I'll wrap it up.
It's really related. So yeah, let's just quickly build some tips that we have, and I'll
so coming in at number 5.
Number 5. We haven't certainly.
Have we not ordered them?
I haven't actually ordered them.
This is what happens when I don't come to the meetings.
Yeah. I'll. So my first one is plan every day in advance. It's literally sit down at the start of the week and have a plan for every day. Think about what you want to get done, fit them in through your week. I think you'll find you get so much more done. You're able to be so much more productive with your day. You eliminate any need for procrastination. And when you get to that end of the week and you know you've got all your stuff done, it's such a good feeling. And you can go in the next week knowing that you've got all this done. Second one then.
That for me is a really good one for those young people or those students who are struggling with deadlines or exams. Is that you need to plan. People are like, oh, I don't know how to revise. Or I don't know how to do it. You need to plan your revision weeks in advance. You need to know what you're doing each day. So I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
In terms of that.
Next one I've got is something that came from the book as well. It's called The Rule of Three, but it's basically making lists. So the Rule of Three in this talks about kind of dividing your life into areas and thinking of the three most important goals or needs or wants that you have for each section. So the first one talks about the three most important career goals that you have right now. Second one is the three most important family or relationship goals. What are the three most important financial goals, health goals, personal professional development goals? And it can be like any area in your life. If you're into sports, it could be your three most important sports goals. But I think this is actually a very good way of acknowledging what you want from each section of your life, and it's also a good way to acknowledge maybe your bad habits. I spoke a bit earlier about how important it is to be honest with ourselves and how important it is to acknowledge the bad habits that you have. So I think this is a good way of doing it, and it's a good way of not only acknowledging it, but then starting the road to trying to phase them out and eliminate it. And it just allows you to sort of again have a bit of structure and know, like, from your career, what your goals in your career are separate from what your goals are with family, and it's keeping them separate, and it's allocating time to each one. And then the last one I've got is just reflection.
So one of the things that I found helpful is to actually write a not to-do list. So what are the things that are barriers to you being productive? What are the things that get you distracted in your day? What are the things that make you start your day bad and you can't recover? So
My job.
Pardon?
My job.
So it could be things like don't look at my phone first thing in the morning, or it could be for example, don't look at social media in the morning. But we all it's kind of interrogating the things that lead us down the wrong path, and then like consciously taking out of those things and making an effort to not do them, remembering these are things that can wreck my day, and I always regret it afterwards. So kind of productivity killers. Actually take a list of a not to do list. And I think another simple tip is just get your sleep.
Get sleep.
Like it's really, really hard to be productive when you're tired.
Underrated.
So like
sleep.
Your mum was always right.
Yeah.
Get your sleep.
So I love how it's just when you're younger, it's so cool to stay up late, and then as you get older, you just sort of realize like I just want to be in bed by 8 o'clock.
Yeah. And it's when you value the people around you and the different responsibilities you have, whether it's work or your relationships or your family or whatever, like they're worth your time and your energy. So like you have to look after yourself. Like sleep's part of that. You could talk about other things as well, but I would say sleep. Look after your sleep, get your energy up, and then that's going to give you the best chance for a good day.
Cool. I would say my productivity tip of the day would be, kind of plan out. Kind of echoing what you guys have said. Like I like to plan out what my week is going to look like and the big things that I need to do for that week, whether it's job or outside of the job or whatever. Plan out what the big things are. Make sure I get them done when I'm going to do them that week, and then also, weirdly, I like to plan in with my free time what I'm going to do and who I'm going to do stuff with. Some of my friends will laugh at me because like they like call me like Jonny the calendar man or whatever. Like, because like I like if we're going to do something, like well, stick it in the calendar and we've got it organized so that we actually meet our friends. I think it's not just about jobs. It's not just about being productive in school or work lives. It's about like our friendships and our family. You got to plan time with your friends as well, and like a lot of especially when you get older, you'll find that people are more busier and things like that. So for me, it's like I need to plan time when I'm going to see these guys. I want to have plan time, when you're in your marriage or whatever as well, when you're going to see your wife or girlfriend at some point. But Low blow. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's my biggest productivity tip is actually plan. I think planning is so underrated in terms of like your day-to-day stuff and how you do that.
And like just linked to that, kind of my other tip is like create a vision for your day and your future. Like it's a really good thing just to think about what is an ideal day, what is a really well lived day for me, and what are the ingredients in that day, and then like keep that note somewhere handy and review it regularly.
Absolutely.
Remind yourself of the things you care about and things you love and things you want in your life, because we forget about these things so often. And it's like, no, you can have a great day this week. Remember, and then plug in and plan.
A young person asked me recently all the things that I was doing, like in terms of like in my life, and I do quite a lot of various things. And it's like, how do you do all that? I'm like, because I plan it. I'm able to have a social life. I'm able to go play football. I'm able to do all the work stuff that I'm doing and the varied work stuff that we do. Well, it's a matter of making sure you plan and prioritize would be another big thing in terms of prioritizing where you are doing things and what's most important and stuff. So, listen, I don't know if we had a top 5 tips there, but there was a few tips there. I think there were 6.
There's at least 5.
There was at least 5. It was a nice cluster of tips for young people and people working with young people, or just people in life. Maybe useful, maybe not. I've really enjoyed this episode, as always. It's been good to talk about self-discipline. As I said, it's a hard topic to talk about, and sometimes it can be a wishy-washy to talk about, but I think there were some good points that we got out of there, and the top 5 is always good in the hard questions. David, where can you find this podcast?
You can find this podcast anywhere you get your listening stuff. Spotify, Apple Music. Is it on Apple Music as well? It's everywhere.
Is it? But there we go.
Obviously this season we've got the video stuff as well on YouTube, so make sure you jump on YouTube and you get to see our lovely faces, and also it's available on our website as well. So just get involved, and we'd love to hear any questions that the listeners have. You know, give us ideas. You know what I mean? Johnny's running out.
Running out of ideas. So you know where to find us. And Stephen, what's coming up?
Yeah, what's coming up? Well, we are going to be looking at the area of the value of serving other people, and that we think that's something that we don't think about. Certainly young people don't think about the value of kind of getting out of yourselves, forgetting about yourself, and filling your life with other people and the good that is. So that will be what we're doing next. And
don't say anything more because we don't want to spoil it too much. But that's a wee snippet of what we're coming up and doing next. And we will be starting a new kind of subsection of our podcast for young people, particularly with young people are going to be joining us. So that if that's something that's interested you, get involved. If it's something that it doesn't interest you, but we're still going to be here doing the thing that we're doing. But listen, really, really good. Thank you, David, for all your hard work, your research, and your reading of your book this week. Thank you for going to the gym and intermittent fasting.
No worries.
Thank you, Stephen, for your research and your, what did you do again? Your social media at 12 o'clock malarkey. It was great. Well done to me for being the best at the competition this week. And yeah, thanks to me. So
2 in a row for me.
It's 2 in a row. Thanks very much, guys. We will be back with our podcast next month, and we're looking forward to it, and hope to see you all soon.